Group builders, welcome to the workbench. We have our Metaler Space Shuttle Discovery. And don't worry, you're not having deja vu. We already built this model from before, but it was a little bit different. And by different, I mean a whole lot less detail and, of course, no coloring. Now, just looking at the face value of these two models right now, I can see that the noses are completely different, which makes me wonder how much harder this model is going to be. Not to mention the back looks completely different too. The only way we're going to find that out, though, is by opening this up. But first, let's take a look at the back. I'll just put you right here. On the back, we get a look at our model, followed by some instructions on how to build it. Then just below, we have the history of the Space Shuttle Discovery. And on the left here, we get a look at some other models in the series. On the right, we have a QR code which we can scan to get a 360 look at our model while we're building it. It comes in handy when we're putting little bits of detail onto our model and we want to know the orientation that it goes in. And then finally, at the bottom, we get a difficulty rating here of just over medium. This should be very refreshing after Deadpool. Groovers, let's go ahead and open up our package. We have our instructions. And we have our metal. And I really do like this brush finishing on these models. It really does make them look nice. Alright, Groovers, let's take out our first couple of pieces. And just like that, we have all of our pages needed for that first page of building. Now the first thing we're going to be doing is grabbing our tweezers and part number 1 here. Now grabbing it very carefully in our tweezers, we're going to poke these little guys here in the back down. These are 2 little tabs. They're going to help us grab parts 3 and 2. Yes, I said that out of order apparently. Awesome. Now again, you want to grab as much of the tab in your tweezers as possible. That's the best way to secure all of your detail when it comes to these metal models, and it also makes sure that all of your parts fit properly in their spot. If you have leftover bits of tab, it really will get in the way of some of your detail and will leave little bits of gaps, or even worse, will make some of your parts extremely loose, which is no good. No good at all. Alright. Okay. Now we need to grab parts 2 and 3. So to do that, here's part 2. Now what we're doing here is we're putting it on the underside, and we need to make sure that the white paint is going to be visible from the outside. So if you see white paint on the silver side here, you know you have it on the wrong way. These guys get folded over. And what I like to do is just kind of get over my tabs once I made a little bend, and that helps me lock things in place. And look at that, looks really nice. Okay, let's do the other one. There we go. Cool. That's our 2 little bits of detail on. Now we're going to make some serious moves. And I've been debating about how to go about this. You know, I might just go ahead and use my tweezers to help me kind of start it. But I really might end up using the front here a little bit too. I might even go ahead and do that now and just kind of roll that front a little bit. Let me get my shaping tool. Now what's kind of funny about this is a cake tool, or cake fondant tool, and it's great though for these metal models because you can get a really nice rounding effect just by rolling it over the piece. Now you do have to be careful with the color pieces because too much rolling can make some of the paint on some models come off depending on the make and model, but overall it's a really good way to get a nice little rounding effect. Now that looks pretty good. I think I can start maybe bending this now. I really don't want to bend it. I'm so nervous. Yeah, I'm bending it slow because I really I really don't want to mess this up. I know I didn't really talk much there. That's because I was really concentrating. So what I was doing here is kind of feeling the metal. In the back here, you can see that there's some forming pieces, okay? And now the sharp parts, that's the little edges down here, those are where it's meant to be bent. And then the bent edges at the top are where it's supposed to have a nice little curve. Now, I have tools that can help me with that, get that nice curve. But if you don't at home, you really just want to take your time in this step to make sure that you're getting this done correctly. Because this is the main shape of the ship. And I mean, if you don't get this part of the ship done correctly, you can have some really wonky looks. So you really want to do your best with this. Now, I think this is more flat here. Could be wrong. But I'm going to use my tool to kind of help me with it. I think I'm pretty happy with this. I might have to come back and form it 100 more times before I'm actually really happy with it. But for right now, we're gonna say we're okay with it. Let's see how this little part here goes, which I could have used part number 4 here to help me get that front shape here. Let's see how well I did in guessing its form. Now, looking at our instructions, this little part here has been pretty heavily. We're gonna do our best to get a nice little shape. Same kind of concept as before. Let's give her a nice little roll, but we're gonna start in the center first. And the reason why we're doing that is because we can see that this piece has a nice little kind of straight edge along the front, or sorry, along the fronts, and the back is curved. So I'm just trying to mimic that shaping with my fondant tool. Same with her here, just kind of give a nice little roll. Not too much, that was a little too much. Just enough. Okay. I would like to secure this with the black, but it's just not going to work. So I'm going to have to fold this down for now, and then I'm going to probably end up painting that black. And you can do that with any kind of marker. Sharpies work pretty well. Paint markers are really your best friend, though, to be honest with you. Okay. All right. I'm okay with this right now. Again, we might have to kind of do some work on it in a moment here, but for overall, that's not too bad. Let's go ahead and see if we can get this attached on. Now we need to bend these guys back here. And again, we're going right to the edge, and then we're bending that tab over. We want to grab as much of that tab as possible in our tweezers. I think that's about right. Man, that nose is going to be a pain in my butt. I kind of knew it was going to be too. I could just tell by looking at it on the instructions here. This is requiring a little bit of coaxing to get this tab in here. But again, a little bit of time, a little bit of patience, work it in. There we go. That looks really good. Yeah, look at that. Not bad at all. Not bad at all. Now we can put this aside and start working on part number 5, which is our boosters. Same thing as before. What we want to do is kind of grab our piece here. And again, we're going to do some rolling actions here. You know, a marble can work pretty good. I've seen people use spoons. Spoons are a great way to get good shaping here. Shapey over there. You know what we need? We need animate oranges tools to kind of help me here. Yeah, let's get those. This is about a red, I think. Okay. Okay, that's our first little booster here. Then we go over to this little side and grab part 6. Part 6, we then make sure that the non-engraved side, that's the part that looks a little bit silver there, we want to make sure that's on the, going towards the blaster. And we're going to just fit her in. There we go. Awesome. Okay. Awesome. That's my first little one there. Looking pretty sweet. I'm going to put that down. And now we're going to work on the other two. Now those are exactly the same. So let's go ahead and skip to where I've already have those two complete. Okay, and that's my last one there. Hope that transition was okay. Now we need to move on to adding other little bits. That's part 7 and part 8. These are very similar parts, but it's important to know that you need 2 parts of part 8 and 1 of part 7. Let's start with part 7 here. And what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we're grabbing the engraved side, and we're going to bend all of these little tiny petals down. Now the first 2 are kind of the most important because you kind of get an understanding of how much these are going to be bent down. You basically take the petal and then just bend it down and match the next piece or the other petal next to it. Again, take this petal, bend it down, and match it to the border. And eventually, once you go all the way around, you'll have a finished part. Don't rush this, take your time. You don't want to warp a piece. Take this, bend that slightly up. There we go. Now the reason why we're doing that with these tabs is because I'm pre-bending them for when we install them onto the main ship. That's going to be a little bit later. It's actually part 9. Let's put that down right now and move on to these 2 guys. Again, same thing, just going around, banging them down, match the first 2 as best we can, and then match the others. One thing I do here as well is I always alternate when I'm twisting my tabs. So if I turn one clockwise, I turn the other one counterclockwise. There we go. Awesome. We got our boosters complete. Now I can move on to forming part 9. Part 9 is pretty easy to do. Now the one thing we're going to do is we're going to take the 2 bottom ones first and we're going to attach them on. Now because we pre-bent those tabs earlier, these should go pretty easily into place. Just like that. Awesome. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to secure these. These are bent. So I'm actually going to use these guys here. Okay. I like that. That looks kind of cool. I definitely could play with this for a little longer and get it looking even better. But for right now, we're going to keep moving on. Let's take our little piece here and bend it straight up, just like that. And then like that. A little bit hard to do. I actually should have bent this front here. So if you're following along with me at home, when you're doing part 9, bend the front piece here, the front little section first. And the reason why you do that is because it will make it a lot easier for you to get this little ledge, and then you can bend the sides. The sides are smaller, you can bend them with a smaller surface area here, but these longer ones here, you need a longer tweezer set to actually be able to do that. And I do have them around here, I just don't have them with me at the moment, so we're using our little 13s here. Okay, let's keep on moving along. We got part 9 formed, and now we're going to take our back and we're going to place it on. Now this should be pretty simple, especially because we formed our piece here already. Now this is also going to be a good gauge as to how well we bent it, and we can see right here, see that right there? That's not good. We don't like this. This is bad, that little gap. So we're going to take care of that gap by manhandling these pieces. No gaps. That's the motto, people. No gaps. No gaps. And actually, that was a pretty easy correction. So there we go. Let's take these right here. Push them down. These are white. I almost wish that Metal Earth would have tipped these tabs in black. You know, that's a pretty precise thing to do, but they're able to do these decals here, so I don't see why they're not able to maybe just dip the tabs black. You could also take a Sharpie on those and get rid of that too. Now this kind of bowed out a little bit, so let's fix that. Awesome. Awesome, 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 awesome. I really like how this is coming along. Okay, now we got these two pieces together. We can move on to the next piece, which is part 10. This is another little funky piece we got to bend here, guys. So what we're going to do, grab our little part 10 here. Now, looking at the back, we can see that there's multiple different bending points. It means they're trying to go for another kind of rounded effect again. So let's pull out our lovely little cake decorating set again here and just kind of give a little run through just to kind of get a nice start on that bend. Same thing on this side here. I'm just putting a little bit of pressure, and I'm trying to go as dead center of these lines as possible. And I realize not everyone is going to have these tools at home, but there's a ton of things you can use around your home that can mimic this. I mean, everything from a what would it be, a what's the word called? What's the stuff you hang your clothes on? Clothes hanger, that's the one. See, we got there. Clothes hanger ends are really good to use, believe it or not. There's especially some of the metal ones are good to use. Look around, you'll be surprised what you can find. Anything that's kind of rounded like this will work really well. Look in your kitchen. Kitchen's a great place. Okay, that's a good start, I think. Now let's just have a little bit more fun with it. Now I really am going to hesitate on this piece. I don't want to go too sharp because it's very easy to get a hot spot, which is basically a giant crease in the piece. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my tweezers and try to gingerly help me out here a little bit. I've already kind of started getting a hot spot there, and I want to be very careful. Now I can see that this front piece here is actually kind of rolled, so I'm going to try to do that. And I think we go-ish right here. I'm really trying to round this, but it's just not going to happen, I bet. Okay, there we go. Now we can move on to the next step here, which is adding the little bits of detail on. The first one we're going to be adding on is part 11. Our pieces are definitely getting smaller now. Let's see here. Okay, there we go. Take these guys here, bend them down. I'm going to bend the one, and I'm going to actually twist the other here. I don't think it really matters. I don't think there's any detail that's going to be getting in the way there so much. Okay, now we can move on to part 12. This part here looks pretty interesting, I must say. Okay, we're going to bend this piece back down here, and we're going to actually, you know what, we're going to bend it back out. We're going to bend this whole piece down, and then we're going to grab the top part above that little step, and we're going to bend that up. Now we're going to take this piece and push it back, and that perfectly lines it up. Look at that. It's like it was made to do that. Now we can grab our big assembly here that we have, or our smaller assembly, I should say. We have a bigger one behind there. Gaps here. Looking good, looking good. Awesome. All right, that is that. Let's put that down here. And now we got to work on our first cone. Well, actually, it's kind of our fourth cone, but our real cone of the pieces, if you will. Or our real cone. Wow, I can't speak. This is our first cone of the build. That's a traditional cone without pedals. We got there. And what we're going to do is I'm actually going to use the little penning tool here that we have. But you know, a sharp pencil will work really well too. Or if you have a dowel, if you can take that and use a little sharpener, that'll work as well. Let's take this little piece and just start working on it we're actually going to take the bigger half here and just put that at the top. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go to the top here, and I'm going to work my way down. And that eventually will make that marry up. Now you do have to kind of bend this on an angle for it to bend correctly. I have a bit of a sharp edge here I'm going to work on. Okay. There we go. That looks pretty good. I like that. Now we can push that there a little bit, just kind of round it off. You know, I'm going to make my other ones, I'm going to bend them a little bit differently than I bent this one to see if I can get to go a little bit better than this. Just because I'm one of these guys that like to go for perfection. Let me do that all right. Now we're going to take this little tiny piece here, put it down, and we're going to grab part 14. So this is a really tiny little gasket. And we're going to go around and we're going to bend those little tiny pieces down. Now we got little tweezers here to help me, but if you don't have these at home, take the very end of your tweezers and then bend the petals down. Okay, that was a little tricky, getting all those little tiny pieces bent, but we did it! Now we got to add the next part here, which is just that engine like we did last time. It goes just on top. Now that we got this little tiny guy built, we got to add it on to part 15. I mean, you know, this is basically just a small little engine here, and everything that we did from before is being mimicked right here, and it's a little easier, to be honest with you, unless you're having a really hard time getting the cone to match up, which if you haven't done one before, you know, they can be a little tricky, but once you do a couple, you kind of get the idea of how they're supposed to be bent, and you can become pro. There we go. Got that guy on there, and now we're a little bit wobbly here. Ah, okay. So, let me just tell you what I just learned here. Basically, these pieces right here require us to really make sure that when we put the booster inside, that we have the tabs here flat. If they're not flat, you're not getting this in on a good fit. It's just not happening. I just spent some good time there trying to get that in, and I could not do it. And I thought I was doing something wrong, and I was. What I had done wrong, though, was a couple of steps back, which, you know, welcome to Metal Earth. Now, this right here is the non-engraved side. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab it, and we're going to grab this little bottom half here, and we're going to bend that back. Just like that. That was hard to do, but we did it. There we go. She's bent, she's ready, and now we're going to attach it onto the ship. This should be interesting, or I should say onto the piece that we've already built here. Now you'll notice that one side has a insert and the other one has a sleeve. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to take this guy here and I'm going to place it into the sidewall, and then bring this one up here. And oh yeah, look at that. And I must say too, like the part, it's shaped really well. Like, I mean, I'm not gonna, you know, toot my own horn or anything, but that piece matched up really well. There we go. We got one of these done. I think we have a few of these to build though. This one here is going to go on the back right hand side, or back left hand side, correction. There's definitely more hump in the middle, so on the next engine, or when you're building this, maybe you want to puff out this piece a little bit more in the center to make it look even better than I have mine. That is so cool. Okay. That is so neat, and I can just poke that like that. Boo! Look at that. That looks awesome. But with this all connected, now we need more parts. And there we go. We have all of our parts needed for that second page of building, page 3 in your instructions. Let's grab part 16 here, And this is a pretty interesting looking little piece. There's a small little tiny bit of metal in the middle there that we need to keep straight, and we also need to bend these little flaps a little bit. So how we're going to do that is we're going to bend these guys first just a little bit out. It looks like they come out a little bit, so we're going to do that. And then the same thing on this side. And now what we're going to do is we're going to make some big moves. Now I'm going to go all the way down here, and I'm going to use all of my tweezer to help me bend this piece. Now I'm going to get a 90-degree angle here on that, the best I possibly can. Now my tweezers are just a little bit too thick to just put in the middle there and bend the other side down, so we're going to have to do this side here too. And we're going to use this part here to kind of give us a hand. Now I'm going to get more of a chance in a moment to make that a little bit more flush. But first, we actually have to get these guys all sorted out. Now the reason why I puff them out is because we're going to be attaching all of this closely together. So I'm going to take this piece here, which is that bottom layer, and I'm going to push this a little bit. We really want these to match up. And if they don't, it's probably because the column in the center here isn't necessarily straight. Oops, and I bent that. And that's exactly what's happening here. I got one side bent a little bit more than the other, which is really easy to do because, like I said, you can see how it's slanted in the middle there. This side here is, or this side here is more bent than this side here. I'm going to try to correct that by bringing my tweezers in, and then I'm going to actually use my desk here and push down a little bit. I'm going to do that in multiple areas. Okay, got that in there. Now we're going to bend this tab down here a little bit more. This is not the easiest piece to put together, I'll tell you that. I do like how it has definition though. Okay, I like it. And that little top piece there we can bend down a little more. There we go. That looks nice. Looks really nice. And this bottom here actually stayed in good shape too. I thought it was going to be a little bit warped because I got that one piece there that went a little bit misaligned, but no, we got it. Cool. Now we got this in there. We can attach to our back. Let's see here. Okay, there we go. Awesome. This front here is coming out again, though. I don't like that. I want that to be kept better. I don't want any edging. Listen here, ship. You will do as I say. You will be perfect. I love spaceships too much for you not to be perfect. All right, that's now added. We get to move on to part 17. Now, we've already built this part, so what I'm going to go ahead and do is fast forward to where I'm complete. Now, if you have any questions, just make sure you leave a comment down below, and I'll do my best to get back to you. All right, let's fast forward to where I'm done. Oakley dokley, now I have everything kind of formed with our second piece here. I did round this part to make it a little bit easier, but one thing I noticed is that the back here is straight. So I do have to push this a little bit, otherwise I'm going to have a gap, and we don't like gaps. We don't like gaps. Okay, let's move on to the next piece here. Let's put it onto the little ship. Now I also bent these tabs a little bit easier too, so what I could do is insert the side here. Oh, you get in there. And what he didn't take into account was that the other tab would be just as high. There we go. And look at that. See, pre-bending your tabs is awesome. Now, put a little pressure on there. Let's get our tab securement tool. Okay, those ones are going to be a little bit more difficult. So, there you go. Ha ha ha. Okay, there you are. Cool. There we go. That looks awesome. And they are definitely on there. And they're looking pretty sweet. This one's a little jibbly though. I'm gonna have to look at that one. But still, pretty cool. Look at that. Now we get to move on to our wings. These would be pretty cool too. These wings, we start with part 21. Now, with these pieces here, what we need to do is bend all this black here down. And we're also going to bend this little bit here too. If we look at the back, you can see the very small edge we got to bend. Now, the reason why I'm doing it like this is because this has a very unique curve in it, and I don't want to screw it up. You really need to have your tools raring to go here. Okay. Looks a little beat up. I'm going to straighten that out. This discovery came in through re-entry, and that's why it's a little bit, you know... Woocha! Now, these guys are some nylon pliers. I don't know if these are going to work that well, but we're going to give them a go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the metal right there. Okay, right that tip. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the black part of the metal and bend it down ever so slightly. Now, once I get one, I should be able to get the others. Just like that. I'm going to move my pliers up a little bit. So what's really nice about nylon pliers is that they don't necessarily scratch what you're working with. Now, that being said, you can still bend things if you don't grab them correctly. So you want to make sure that every time you're using any kind of tool, that you're propping things up in the right way. This is definitely not fun. The only problem is with nylons is that it's very easy for everything to slip. So, like, you have to kind of really work both these tools at the same time. So if you don't have good dexterity in your hands, this may not be the method for you. The only reason why I'm not using my other ones is because I'm a little bit worried that they're going to mark up the paint, and I don't want to ruin the paint on this at all because I really want this to turn out nicely. But I'm gonna do it anyway. I got a little scratch there. Not worth it. Alright. Straighten that out a little bit. Okay. Alright. I don't know if I'm going to do that again. I don't know if it's worth bending that little bit of detail down. I got this weird little kind of effect happening here now, and I got to work it all out. And it's just it's a lot of time, and it also doesn't have a little piece to bend. It's not scored at all, so you're actually bending a piece of the wing. Okay, I think that's about as best I can do here. Now I'm going to slightly bend these down. Like that. And there we go. We have our first wing. Now what we're going to do is we're going to attach this onto our Space Shuttle Discovery. Making sure that we don't scratch the paint. There we go. And again, this is where we're going to secure everything in place. I like to press as hard as I can with both my tools when I do this, and that just makes sure that we have a really good connection. Let's attach this wing on. I already love how this looks. This is so neat. It's such a better model. You guys, honestly, Metal Earth, if you guys are watching this, great job with the redo on this. I've been wanting one, and I'm glad you guys did it. I still have the other ones to do. I have all the models to do in this line, but they're all the same, just a little bit of laser etching detail, which is different. This one is a whole other kit. And I think, personally, this kit has a lot more value than the older ones do. But that's just my opinion. I mean, the other ones are great because they're like 10-second builds, but it's just, they're not, if you're a space fan like me, you want realism. And this is a really cool way to take a look at something that you like and hold it in your hands. Okay, enough talking about that stuff. Let's move on to actually forming part 23 here. Now, part 23 is a little bit different. We are going to have to roll the front, and you can see that by these little markings we have right here. But we also got to have these doors down. We're not going to bend them just yet. We're actually going to do that after we form some stuff. Now, also looking at this here, it looks like we got some small bending to do, again, all the way around the edge. There's got to be an easier way to do this, and I just don't know what I could do to make this easier for everybody. I mean, sure, you could use, you know, some smaller tools to go around the edges, but that's just a really hard thing to do. Okay, let's just start with what we can do right now. Let's start working on this front piece right here. Now, what I'm going to do is bring in my lovely little guy here, and we're going to roll that front, just like that. Woo! Now, that's a pretty intense roll, I know, but we're going to make sure the whole thing is rolled. Okay. Nice little bend there. Kind of even it out. That's a really nice, like, good bend that I'll be able to move around when I attach it to the ship here. I'll be able to play with this. You see, it's only a slight bend I really need, but again, having that much will make it a lot easier for it to connect together and also hopefully avoid any gaps that might be on the front. All right, let's take these little guys here. Now, I wonder how easily these guys are going to pop out, because they're bent slightly now, but they went in pretty easily. Cool. I don't know what I was trying to do there, but that was silly. Okay, there we go. Now what we're going to do is just kind of go around the sides here and bend them around. We're only going to do this around, it looks like between right about here all the way to just about here is where it looks like it has to end. So what I'm going to do is just try my best to do that. And I'm working my way around the model. All I'm doing is trying to grab a little bit of the metal at a time, and I'm just inching my way up. All the way around this little corner. I really hope this is doing okay. Looks like I'm having a good effect so far. Okay, and there we go. We did it. Looks like everything looks pretty sweet here. We still have some more parts to add together, but for the most part, it looks like everything's going to go together nicely. I'm just really not a big fan of this little bending technique that they require you to do. It just, I mean, it doesn't look horrible, and I do like how it does have that little bit of definition and that little nice round curving kind of action, but I don't know if it's worth it. We'll see a little bit later, though. But first, we need more parts. And there we go. We have all of our parts needed to build the Space Shuttle Discovery. And now we're working on the wheels. The first thing we're going to be grabbing is part 24. That's this guy right here. And what we're going to do is we're going to look on both sides. One side has a little bit of detail. The other one does not. This one here says A. So I'm assuming that I don't want to see that part. I'm confused. So, what we're going to do is we're going to take the engraved side here, bend it like that. Same thing on this side. Bend it like this. And now this is bent like that. Awesome. Now, when it comes to bending our wheels, which is right here, this is part 25. These wheels are our first cones of the build. Correction. These right here are the first cylinders of our build. So what we're going to do is we're going to use my mandrel here to help us get a really good shape. Now, what I always like to do is like to start big and then go small. All I'm going to do is take my little thing here and press into it. Now, if you have a set of straws at home, this is a good alternative to what I'm using right now. Also a pen, some Crayola markers. Can also be pretty good shapes. Now, this is a pretty small one, so those might be too big. Maybe a thermometer would be a good one. Try to think of things that are, cylinder shaped in your home, and you can pretty much use them. I've seen people use Q-tips before for some of the smaller stuff. Those work pretty well. But if not, you can always go out and buy yourself one of these. They come usually in two, one with a little bit bigger. And they're pretty good. Good to have. I also have a dapping set as well, which is very useful. You saw me use it earlier. Put it on to our piece here, because we do not want to have ourselves put this part together and then have to take it apart again. There we go. Those wheels look really good. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take this little set of wheels and we're going to add it onto the ship. But before we do that, we're going to need to put 26 in place. Now we look at 26. We're going to put that little edge there down. Same with the other side. Interesting how that got in there. And now what we're going to do is put this on the back and put the other one on the front. Getting this in there is not easy. You know what? Maybe installing this part on first before putting it on there would have been a good idea. Doing it this way, it just seems more difficult. You're trying to get the tabs into an area that you can't really see well. Cool. All right, that looks pretty neat. I like that. Now we can move on to the next part here, which is assembling these back wheels. Now this is done very similar to the one we've done before, but there are some more parts. So let's take a look at those. Now with these guys here, the most important thing we want to do is take these little guys and bend them down, just like that. Come around to the side here, same thing. Here we go. It's going all the way around the model, or all the way around the piece there. We got a nice little square, put that down. We'll do the same side with this here. Again, just bend everything down. There we go. And now that we got those two things done, we can grab this right here. And I think what we're going to do this time, before we get too far ahead, is maybe attach our wheels on before we put them onto the actual model. I think that would be the best kind of thing to do here. But before we get to that part, we're going to add this little bit of detail that we were just working on. All right, we got both of these finished. Now, one thing to keep in mind is when we have this like this, we actually want to bend this slightly down, just like that. And that is how we're going to put our landing gear in. Now, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to try my best to attach this gear on before putting it through. I think we can do it. I'm going to put you over here before I start bending you, and then that will be the mission. Let's see how easy it is to put me through here. Okay, it looked like it was pretty simple. So more wheels to bend. All of this stuff is pretty similar to each other right now, so I'm going to go ahead and skip over all this until I'm attaching these guys onto these. Okay, and there we go. We have those wheels now formed, and we can put them onto our gear here. Now, I want to make sure I'm doing this correctly, so I'm going to orientate it to my page here, and I'm going to look at how these wheels are being placed inside. It looks like if I have this orientated correctly, the triangle go towards the front. So the triangle go like this. There we go. Yeah, way easier to do it that way, guys. There we go. Cool. Now we got those bent and we got all of our tabs bent. We can start installing these guys into the ship. Now I'm hoping that this is going to be pretty easy to do. Let's see. Put her in. Do a little twist. And oh, it's like I knew what I was doing. But I understand why MetalArt doesn't tell people to do it that way. It would be really hard to communicate that on page. It's even hard for me to communicate how I did that. Basically what I did was I twisted the wheels, and then by twisting the wheels and going just to where the metal started meeting, I was able to get this just inside. And now I'm going to just straighten that up. Cool. I'm kind of mad at myself. I accidentally bent this when I put that in. But they look pretty good. I like it. I'm going to bend this guy here a little bit though. Like that. Alright. That looks great. That front one's a little wiggly though, isn't it? Oh, it's not that. It's actually the lower piece here. Okay. Less movie now. Alright. Now that we got those wheels installed, we've pretty much done this thing. We got to actually attach this onto our main shuttle piece. Let's see if we can get this on. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to work from my nose back. I'm pretty happy with how the majority of this has come together, and I think I have a good body shape. You know what? I just realized we're going to be putting these in the middle. So maybe it would be best actually for me to start in the middle where I can barely see the tabs, and then whoa, okay, yeah, get the core first and then work on the wings. Okay, good placeholder. The back tabs here are all butt in, actually. Freaking awesome. Okay, so those are good. Let's work on these guys here then. Man, the bending of the wings on the edges is not a fun thing at all. That's definitely one of the hardest parts of this entire build, I would say. Like, hands down. Like, the original ones were way more straightforward in terms of the building. You didn't have all this micro detail, which, again, not complaining at all. You want detail, especially on builds like this. It's just such a change. Okay. Oh, this looks so neat. And I think I killed it right here on the body. I mean, that's really well aligned. That looks so good. I did kind of bend this a little bit messed up, though. I can just kind of fix that like that. Maybe mix it like this. Yeah, that looks so awesome. It really, truly does. But now we need to work on the stand. Place you right there. That wing section worked out a lot better than I thought it would. Let's grab these guys here. Now, these are really easy to do. This is actually a very similar stand to the ones we've seen in the Star Wars models. All we're going to do is bring this around the front. Just like this. Bring this guy over here. And there's our closure. Now what we're going to do is put this big wide spot here at the bottom. You'll notice I haven't closed it yet, and that's because I want easy access to these tabs down here. Like this. There we go. Now this right here is where we get the little bit of a bend for our ship. I'm going to do a little one on all 4 sides. Just like that. Now when we attach this on here, it's important to make sure the thick part goes in the back, thin part goes in the front. My hand-eye coordination is usually way better than this. I must be tired today. Bend this down. Awesome. Like just about there. Bring that front down. Same thing as before, like I said. Bring these guys like this. Try and match up those sides a little bit, best we can. And now before we bring these sides down to close it like a hatch, we're going to slightly bend the side, and then we're going to meet the pieces together and allow them to come together. Cool. All right. Let's see if we can get this to stand right here. Ho, that looks awesome. I mean, just the detail alone looks so good, especially when you compare it to the original here, which is a little dusty. Shouldn't have maybe cleaned it off before I decided to film it. But yeah, look, comparison. I mean, again, we can see right away, this cockpit is so much better. Great job on this, guys. Really, the detail, the color, even the little fence up the front looks great. When you look at this one here, well, you don't really see any of that. It's just a little bit of laser etching. And I get you. This is a great show of evolution when it comes to metal models and where Metal Earth has come from. This is definitely an early model. This is the latest. What a change. Great job. And overall, I gotta say, I really like the Discovery.